The email wasn't addressed to me. It was a chain between my co-founder, I'll call him Marcus, and an attorney. The subject line read, "Entity formation, finalized." And Marcus had hit reply all by mistake. Or maybe not by mistake. I've thought about it a lot since. And I was included in that reply. I read it once. Then I read it again. He had incorporated the company. The company we had spent 9 months building together. The concept we had developed across hundreds of hours of conversations, planning sessions, customer interviews, and late-night edits to pitch decks. He had incorporated it as a sole founder. His name only, no mention of me, no equity structure that included me. No co-founder agreement, no advisory arrangement, no acknowledgement of my existence in the company's founding documents. I closed my laptop. I sat for a while. And then I made a decision that changed the next 2 years of my life, and his. New here? This is a channel about betrayal, revenge, and the kind of justice that actually holds up. Subscribe, hit the bell, and let's get into the full story. Marcus and I met in a graduate entrepreneurship program. We were assigned to the same team for a semester-long project, a simulated product launch. We worked well together. We had the kind of complementary dynamic that people write about in founder memoirs. He was the front-of-room person, charismatic, quick on his feet, good at pitching, good at networking. I was the back-of-room person, the one who made the product actually work, who built the financial models, who wrote the documentation and ran the customer discovery calls. We complemented each other in ways that made both of us better. Or so I believed. After the program ended, we stayed in touch, had lunch a few times, talked about the professional world with the kind of openness that only exists between people who've worked intensely together and come through it still liking each other. About 18 months after graduation, Marcus sent me a message. He had an idea. A product market fit observation in the B2B onboarding space. A real problem, a clear gap. He wanted to know if I'd be interested in building it with him. I said yes, because the idea was good and because I trusted him. Both of those things were true. Both of those things were mistakes. 9 months. That's how long we worked on it before the email. 9 months of evenings and weekends, of shared documents with both our names at the top, of customer interviews that I set up and conducted, of product specifications that I wrote and Marcus reviewed, of pitch decks that Marcus built from outlines I drafted. We talked about equity. We talked about 50-50. We talked about co-founder dynamics in the abstract way of people who haven't yet needed to formalize anything. We shook hands. We did not sign a document. I've since had many opportunities to reflect on that, on why I didn't push for paperwork with someone I trusted, on how trust can substitute for documentation in a way that only reveals itself as a problem after the trust is gone. The answer I always come back to, because I believe we were building something together. I thought we were partners. The email told me what he thought. I went through the stages quickly. I've always processed things fast, not because I'm unaffected, but because I have a high tolerance for sitting with uncomfortable truths and moving toward a decision. The stages compressed. Shock, anger, grief, genuine grief, because we were friends and I had believed in this. And then a very cold, very clear-eyed assessment of my options. Option 1, legal action. I consulted 2 attorneys, The advice was consistent. Without a written co-founder agreement, without equity documentation, without any formal structure, proving co-founder status on an idea is nearly impossible. The concept itself is not protectable. Our shared document showed collaboration, but collaboration doesn't automatically equal ownership. Legal action would cost significant money, take years, and have an uncertain outcome, even if I was morally right. Option 2. Confront Marcus and demand he do the right thing. I actually called him. He picked up after 2 rings. He was calm, noticeably, uncomfortably calm. He said he'd been meaning to talk to me. He said the company was going a different direction, and he thought it was cleaner to move forward independently. He said our conversations had been exploratory, and he didn't think we'd ever formalized a partnership. He wasn't wrong about the formalization. He wasn't right about anything else. I thanked him for his honesty. I told him I wished him well with the company. I hung up. And then I chose option 3. I built a better version. I gave myself exactly 1 week to be angry. Not to suppress it. Genuinely, fully, 1 week of acknowledging that I was furious and hurt and felt used and lied to, and that the betrayal was real and significant. I called a friend who knew us both. I vented for 2 hours. I went for a lot of very long walks. I let myself feel all of it. At the end of the week, I made a list. The list was everything I knew that Marcus didn't know I knew. Here's what I had that Marcus didn't. I had written the product specification. I understood the technical architecture better than he did. I had conducted the customer interviews and therefore had the most direct knowledge of what the customers actually needed. Not the cleaned up summary in the pitch deck, but the raw, complex, sometimes contradictory reality of what those customers wanted. I also knew where the gaps in our original concept were. The things we'd discussed but never resolved. The parts of the product that were underdeveloped because we'd been planning to work on them together. Marcus had the brand, the investor connections, and the incorporated entity. I had the product understanding, the customer relationships, and the knowledge of exactly where the cracks were going to appear. That second list was the more valuable one. I found a co-founder through a startup community. Not a friend. I was done making business decisions based on friendship. A professional co-founder, someone who had launched a company before, who had skills that complemented mine specifically, and who understood from the first conversation that our collaboration would be formal, documented, and legally structured from day one. We signed a co-founder agreement before we wrote a single line of product code. I have never felt better about a 2-hour meeting than I felt about that one. Our product differed from Marcus's in one fundamental way. I chose to go narrow, where he went broad. Marcus had pitched investors on a horizontal platform, something that would serve B2B onboarding across every industry. It was an ambitious pitch. It was also, from what I knew of the customer research, a mistake. The pain points we'd identified were not universal. They were concentrated in specific verticals, specifically in professional services and in healthcare-adjacent software. I built for those verticals exclusively, narrow, deep, specific enough that our early customers felt like we'd built the product specifically for them, because in a sense, we had. The next 18 months were the hardest of my professional life. I won't pretend otherwise. Building alone, or nearly alone, after having planned to build with a partner, is a lonelier experience than I had anticipated. There were months where the gap between what we had and what we needed felt impossible. There were nights where I seriously questioned whether I should have taken the easier path and tried to let the legal process sort out what had happened. I didn't stop. Partially because I believed in what I was building. Partially, I'll be honest, because I needed to know what we could have made together. And partly because there is a specific, quiet satisfaction in refusing to let someone's betrayal define the limit of your ambition. Marcus raised a seed round 6 months after incorporating. I know because it was announced publicly. He'd gotten a check from a well-known angel investor. He got press coverage in 2 startup publications. For a period of about 8 months, he had all the visible markers of early success. I didn't watch closely. I had my own work to do. But I heard things through the network. The startup world is smaller than it looks. The problem started around month 9. The product, built broad and fast, had retention issues. Customers signed up and didn't stay. The onboarding experience, ironically, the core pain point we'd originally identified, wasn't working. Not because the concept was wrong, but because without the depth of customer understanding I had brought to the research, the implementation missed crucial nuances. He pivoted. The pivot didn't hold. He pivoted again. By month 18, the LinkedIn updates had gone quiet. The company's social media had slowed. The team he'd hired and posted about enthusiastically had shrunk. By month 24, a mutual contact sent me a message. He said, "Heard Marcus is shutting it down." I didn't respond right away. I sat with it for a while. And I found that what I felt was not satisfaction, not the sharp pleasure of vindication I might have expected. What I felt was something quieter and sadder, a recognition that what we could have built together was genuinely lost. Not just for me, for both of us. We crossed $1 million in annual recurring revenue in our 16th month. We were profitable before we raised a seed round, which in 2026 is a distinction that matters to investors. When we did raise, the valuation reflected 2 years of real revenue, real retention, and real customer relationships. Not projections, not a pitch deck, real numbers. The vertical focus, the decision to go narrow where Marcus had gone broad, turned out to be the right call. We owned our niche in a way that a horizontal product never could have. Our customers told other customers. Our churn rate was low because we understood the specific workflows of the people we served. We now have 11 employees. We work with clients in 9 countries. Our product is genuinely something I am proud of every single day. And it is, in every meaningful sense, mine. Not in a possessive way. My co-founder contributed enormously, and I share that credit fully. But in the sense that it exists because I chose to build it rather than fight for something else. It exists because of the decision I made at the end of that 1 week of anger. About 6 months ago, Marcus sent me a text. The message was short. It said, "Hey, saw your funding announcement. Genuinely, congratulations. You built something real. I know things didn't go well between us. I hope you're good." I looked at that message for a long time. And then I wrote back, "Thanks, Marcus. I hope things are well for you too." And that was it. That was the whole conversation. Not because I couldn't have said more, but because there was nothing left to say that the last 2 years hadn't already said. Here is what I know, having been through this. When someone takes something from you, a concept, a plan, credit for work, a relationship, a future you'd imagined, the instinct is to go after what was taken, to fight for the original thing, to make them give back what belonged to you. Sometimes that's possible. Sometimes it's the right move. But sometimes, and this is the case I was in, what you're fighting for is already compromised. The version of the company that existed with Marcus in it as a bad faith partner would never have been as good as the one I built without him, because the foundation would have been wrong from the start. When someone betrays you in business, the question to ask isn't, how do I get back what they took? The question is, what do I know that they don't? And what can I build with it? Marcus took the company name, the investor contacts, and the first mover advantage. He left behind the product understanding, the customer research, and the knowledge of exactly where his version would fail. He didn't realize what he was leaving behind. And I used every bit of it. Tell me, was I right not to pursue the legal route? Or would you have fought harder for the original? I want to hear your take. Drop it in the comments below. And subscribe. New story every single week. The next one is going to be something completely different, and I promise you won't want to miss it. See you then.